Okay, hi there. My name is Robert Soden. I'm an assistant professor in computer science and the School of the Environment at the University of Toronto. And I'm presenting this paper on behalf of my co-authors. It is titled Insights and Opportunities for HCI Research into Hurricane Risk Communication. So disasters resulting from hurricanes or tropical cyclones, as they're commonly known in many parts of the world, result in millions of dollars of damage and thousands of deaths globally each year. They cause injury and property damage as a result of high winds, heavy rainfall, and storm surge, which is a kind of a wind-driven coastal flooding. And so the goal of hurricane risk communication is to help the public make informed decisions about how to protect themselves, their families, and their communities during storm events. It's a multidisciplinary area of research that combines expertise from fields such as meteorology, sociology, psychology, and communication, amongst others. And the goal of this paper is to kind of begin to sketch out what an HCI approach to hurricane risk communication might look like. Our interdisciplinary team of researchers includes designers, crisis informatics researchers, and disaster experts. And we used 3 data sources to develop our arguments. First, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 14 experts in the fields of tropical storm modeling and risk communication. Second, we conducted an extensive literature review of 66 peer-reviewed articles on this topic. And third, we interviewed 36 members of the public from hurricane-prone areas around the United States in order to understand their experiences and perceptions related to storm risk and safety. So we first offer 5 guiding insights aimed at helping HCI researchers who are new to either disaster research or risk communications understand and get started in this complex problem space. First, there's no such thing as a natural disaster. While hazards such as high winds and rains associated with hurricanes may trigger disasters, this always occurs in the context of vulnerabilities that are ultimately rooted in social and political processes. So in the US, for example, factors such as population growth in coastal areas, destruction of protective wetland buffers, growing economic disparity, or changing patterns in infrastructure investments are all social processes that are actively shaping hurricane risk. A kind of corollary to this argument is that it is most often individuals and communities who are marginalized, whether as a result of race, class, gender, ability, or otherwise, that both experience the worst effects of disaster as well as struggle the most to recover in the aftermath. Second, the public's mental models of risk differ from those of experts. There's a kind of gulf of understanding between expert knowledge about storms and popular mental models of risk and uncertainty. And bridging that gap is kind of therefore one of the central challenges of risk communication and requires at minimum much greater understanding of public knowledge and belief around these topics, and may require storm experts to think differently about the design of the models and the data that they produce in the first place. Third, it's hard to overstate the extent to which activities like evacuation or boarding up one's home or other kinds of activities that risk communication experts refer to as protective decision-making can be difficult or expensive. Public trust in the information they receive as well as the messenger is therefore essential, and it can be easily lost if risks are overstated or otherwise seen not to be credible. Fourth, information seeking and use practices are highly contextual and personal. They're situated in ways that reflect people's relationships to the storm, their prior knowledge and experiences, their technology habits, and their personal social networks, amongst other things. So risk communication products and strategies must attempt to take this into account in order to support users to make informed decisions that best respond to their own specific circumstances. Finally, effective risk communication requires many forms of knowledge and expertise. While weather and disaster expertise is no doubt important, risk communication, as we've already noted, is a multidisciplinary area that necessitates contributions of sociologists, psychologists, communication scholars, and others. In addition, risk communication is often conceived of as a sort of one-way transmission from experts to the public. This approach, which is sort of known as the broadcast or the deficit model, has been widely critiqued for ignoring the experience and knowledge of the public, as well as being, potentially less effective when a more dialogic or conversational approach would be superior. So in addition to those guiding insights, we also drew on the interview data and the literature review, as well as our own experience as HCI researchers to develop 6 opportunities for further HCI research into and design into hurricane risk communication. So first up relates to this graphic, which is called the cone of uncertainty. It's probably the most widely used and recognized data visualization in hurricane risk communication, often the only thing that people look at. Nonetheless, it is commonly misinterpreted in a number of ways by the public, and even members of the public with significant hurricane experience. In addition, it does not contain all the information that the public needs to know about a storm in order to make informed decisions. While there is a fair amount of research into how this graphic might be improved, we suggest that it may be worth investigating ways to kind of decenter the cone in overall hurricane risk strategies and offer a few starting points towards this. Second, risk communication research has shown that people are more likely to take necessary protective action when they're shown potential impacts of a storm, as opposed to just the risk in the kind of graphic you just saw. So visual examples such as photographs or videos are thought to be especially useful here, as is helping audiences contextualize the information within their own local area. But more efforts to design such strategies and evaluate their effectiveness is needed. Third, social media is a vital source of information about disaster for many people. However, there are a lot of challenges to effective risk communication over these channels, and people are often overwhelmed by competing information from a variety of from various sources, including information that is incorrect or no longer timely. So research that could help address these challenges could be a great asset to improving overall disaster risk communication. And again, we have a few thoughts on how to approach this in the paper. Fourth, risk communication tends to treat uncertainty as a kind of challenge or an obstacle to be overcome. However, there's a growing area of research that indicates that purposeful or strategic inclusion of ambiguity or providing more information about the kind of extent, source, and nature of uncertainty in the models can in fact support deeper appropriation of complex information by users. Fifth, there are many people that live in storm-prone areas who have developed very sophisticated understandings of hurricane risk and their own methods of kind of seeking out and identifying the information that they need during storms. And so we suggest that there's an opportunity to collaborate with such individuals and community groups in order to design risk communication products and strategies. So kind of engaging these leading users in collaborative design processes may shed new light on how to more effectively reach the wider public. Finally, we note that there's significant opportunity to better target audiences for specific risk communication strategies. So folks with disabilities, tourists, or people whose first language isn't the official language of the place they happen to be are just a few examples about how the public is not a monolithic entity in regards to effective risk communications. And so human-centered design approaches that account for the diversity of information needs and context of use may help better develop hurricane risk communication that is targeted to specific audiences. So our goal with this paper is to encourage more uptake of these challenges by HCI researchers. We think HCI can make a contribution to designing effective hurricane risk communication and would be greatly enriched by doing so. Please get in touch if you enjoy the paper or would like to learn more about what we're working on these days. My email is there on the screen. Thank you.